The forge was never silent. Even in the vacuum-choked depths of the salvaged orbital platform, it breathed like some vast iron beast exhaling sparks and steel and old dreams. Amid the scaffolding and towering mechs, among coils of wire and tangled transistors, Elena worked. She was alone, as usual. The others had left months ago. Mechanics, scrappers, tinkerers from all corners of the shattered Rimworld colonies. They'd grown tired of waiting, tired of the long silence from command, tired of the endless war that had ended without victory or surrender, only with absence. No one knew who fired the last shot, or why the stars had gone dark in Quadrant Theta 9. But Elena had stayed. Maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was because she had a promise to keep. A low chime buzzed through the walls of the docking ring. Elena paused, tightening the last bolt on the micro-servo lattice she was crafting, and pulled her goggles to her forehead. The sound was faint but distinct. Someone or something was approaching. She wiped a gloved hand across her smudged cheek, leaving a streak of grease, and limped to the console, her left leg dragging ever so slightly from an old injury. War wounds. They had a way of lingering, even in the bones. The sensor readout flickered. A transport pod. Ancient, definitely pre-war tech. It was limping through the docking corridor at a snail's pace, barely powered. No transponder. No weapons. No escort. That alone made her pause. She activated the pressurization sequence and watched through the viewing window as the pod's doors hissed open. Steam coiled out, obscuring the interior. Then she heard it. Not a sound precisely. More like a pulse, an echo inside her bones. Deep, primal. And then, from the fog, it emerged. Clawed feet clicked on metal grating, uncertain and faltering. A small figure, no more than the size of a human toddler, crawled forward. Jet-black scales shimmered like oil under flickering fluorescence. Two wings, too large for its body, twitched with instinctive energy. But what caught Elena's attention wasn't the creature's alien nature. It was the bandages over its eyes. The hatchling collapsed at her feet. Elena blinked. A Drakari. A baby one. Here, of all places? No one had seen a Drakari in years. Not since the ceasefire. Her instinct screamed, "Leave it. Don't touch it. Don't get involved." Humans and Drakari had fought a brutal, centuries-long conflict. It wasn't over in hearts, even if it had ended on paper. But the hatchling whimpered, and she was already kneeling beside it. "Easy," she whispered, her voice softer than it had been in years. "You're safe. You're all right." The creature's head tilted. Its nostrils flared slightly, catching her scent. Drakari were supposed to be monsters. Winged reavers. Planet burners. And yet this one, this blind, shivering baby, trembled like a lost child. Elena carried it to the workbench and set it down gently, cradling the soft weight of it in her arms. Its breathing was shallow. Scars marked its snout. One of its wings was partially shredded. Someone had tried to kill it. Or worse, torture it. She found herself murmuring human lullabies without realizing. The same she had sung to her younger sister decades ago before the colony fell. The hatchling curled closer to her. "What the hell am I doing?" She should have reported it to the remains of the Galactic Accord. But the Accord barely functioned now, and no one would come. And if they did, they'd treat the creature like a living weapon. Just another war remnant to dissect and analyze. No, this little one was alone and blind. That part stirred something deep in her. The memory of her own time in the med bay after the shrapnel had taken her sight for 6 months. The helplessness, the darkness, the terror. She tapped the workshop console and opened her AI assistant, Hallie. "Scan the hatchling," she instructed. A small blue orb flickered to life above the bench, casting diagnostic waves over the creature's form. Hallie's voice, neutral and warm, spoke. Species, Drakari juvenile. Approximate age, for solar months. Condition, malnourished, wounded. Ocular damage irreversible without prosthetics or visual augmentation. Likelihood of survival without intervention, 12%. Visual augmentation, Elena whispered, already seeing the blueprint form in her mind. "We can do that." "You intend to assist the Drakari?" Hallie asked. I intend to fix what's broken, she replied, standing. For the next 3 hours, she didn't rest. She scavenged old war-era HUD visors, neural thread interfaces from an abandoned mech cockpit, and an unused exohelmet designed for canine rescue drones. Piece by piece, she soldered, wove, and engineered. But not just with function in mind, with empathy. She added a cranial comfort gel that would adapt to the hatchling skull structure, tuned the sensitivity so it would interpret more than just optical data, heat, pressure, even echolocation. It was her most precise work in years. And when she finally slid the sleek, black helmet over the hatchling's head, it let out a soft sound. A click, then another, and then its breathing changed. It sat up straighter. Its wings twitched with awareness. It turned its head toward her, directly toward her. Then it chirped, a high, grateful trill that struck her straight through the heart. "You can see?" she asked. The hatchling didn't answer in words. Instead, it flapped its little wings and launched straight at her chest, clinging tightly and nuzzling her neck. She laughed. A real laugh, the kind that felt dusty from long disuse. "You're a strange little beast," she muttered, stroking its back. "What do I call you?" The hatchling chirped again. Then, almost like mimicking a sound, it clicked once, then twice more, and growled something like, "Ka, Rin." "Karen," she repeated. "Is that your name?" Another chirp. "Okay then, Karen." And in that moment, Elena, the war-scarred mechanic, had a new purpose. What she didn't know was that 3 decks below, the long-dormant relay had come online. The helmet she had built, rigged with a now-activated microtransmission module scavenged from alien tech, was sending out a signal. A call. A beacon. Invisible to her. But not to them. Exactly 2 hours and 57 minutes later, in a dark region of space once thought dead, something stirred. Portals flickered. Vortex drives awakened. A fleet of black ships, 2,300 strong, broke free from the shadows, forming a jagged line across the edge of known space. They had heard the hatchlings cry, and they were coming. Karen grew fast. By the second week, she could walk steadily without bumping into walls. Her wings were still too fragile for sustained flight, but her tail had developed a whip-snap flick when excited or annoyed. She especially disliked the automated cleaning drones. More than once, Elena found a small heap of sparking, shredded components beneath Karen's perch, with the hatchling looking impossibly proud. She was eating better too, though she preferred her synth meat slightly singed. The forge's heat calmed her. She spent hours curled in Elena's coat, helmet still snug around her skull, her face hidden behind the narrow lenses of the visual augment. But Elena had other things to worry about. The signal. It started 2 days after installing the helmet. The relay near Dock Bay 7 had powered on automatically. It was a long-dead frequency pre-galactic treaty, coated in layers of encryption she couldn't crack even with Hallie's help. Every time she tried, the system bounced her out and reset. "Encrypted how?" she asked the AI, sitting cross-legged on a crate. Hallie projected the transmission data in a spiraling pattern above the workbench. "Unknown protocol, possibly of Dracari origin. I detect harmonic signatures that do not match any human design. So something in the helmet triggered it? That is the most plausible explanation." Elena chewed her lip. "Can we shut it off?" "No. The transmission appears to be self-replicating through abandoned subnetwork nodes. It is broadcasting through your power grid and beyond. Range, unknown." She swore and stood up. Karen chirped from her spot on the shelf, sensing Elena's stress. She fluttered down, landing on the console with a light thump, nudging Elena's hand with her snout. Elena smiled weakly. "Not your fault, kiddo." But she couldn't stop thinking, what if something was listening? Someone is always listening. Her old instructor had once told her during the siege of Glassimport. She had hoped those days were over. Elena boosted the Forge's sensor systems, tapping power from the old core reactors. Every few hours, she swept the system for incoming objects. Nothing, 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 until the third day. Hallie's voice cracked across the silence of the chamber at 0421 station time. "Alert! Spatial anomaly detected. Multiple FDL disruptions occurring at Vector 74 Beta. Elena nearly fell out of her cot. How many? 2,312. She blinked. Ships. Affirmative. Species. There was a long pause. Then Drakari. Dread-class cruisers and hivecraft. Elena stood in stunned silence, half-dressed, her hand trembling around a cup of recycled coffee. The room spun. Her heart tried to hammer its way out her chest. Why now? Why this hatchling? What the hell had she built? Karen crawled to her side, sensing the shift in atmosphere. The moment Elena looked into her glowing blue helmet lenses, she understood. The fleet wasn't here by accident. They were here for her. Or rather, for Karen. Hallie projected the real-time imagery onto the hollow wall. The ships, sleek, obsidian-hulled juggernauts, drifted into formation, some of the size of cities. Others bristled with claws and spines. They made no attempt to hail. No threats. No announcements. Just presence. A dark curtain at the edge of the stars. Elena activated the emergency beacon. Not that anyone would come. The accord was fractured, Earth's colonies were scattered, and humanity's fleets had long since withdrawn to the core systems. But someone might hear. Someone had to. Meanwhile, Karen chirped again, louder now, as if she could feel her kin approaching. She flapped her wings in excited rhythm and leapt toward the viewport. No, wait. Elena caught her in midair. You can't. The hatchling let out a strange trill, something between a call and a command. And in orbit, one of the black ships moved. Not toward the station, but down, toward the planet. Hallie spoke up. Drakari craft descending. Trajectory matches planetary ruin site Theta Prime. Elena paled. Theta Prime. The ruin. Before the war, it had been a Drakari enclave. A temple, some said. A living machine crypt, others believed. No one ever figured it out. The Accord bombed it to bedrock during the last campaign. Nothing was supposed to remain. But now a dreadnought was headed there. Something was being retrieved. She needed help. She opened long-abandoned secure channels, dialing in encrypted pings under the old resistance flags. One after another failed. No response. System offline. Node abandoned. Then, on the fifth attempt, she struck gold. A ping came back. ID, Captain Tau Renner. Call sign, Grave Dog 6. Elena's heart nearly stopped. She slammed the link open. Static. Then a voice. God in heaven, L? That you? Renner, she hissed, voice tight. Thank every star. I've got a situation. You always have a situation, he replied dryly. What is it now? Rusting your coolant again. Shut up and listen. I have a Drakari hatchling. It's blind. I built a vision helmet for it. And now 2,300 ships just showed up outside my sector. Silence. Then, you're kidding. I wish I was. Drakari Dread class? Yes. Shit. Tell me something I don't know. Where are you? Station Sigma 4. Decommissioned Forge. Mid-Theta Rim. Coordinates locked. ETA 7 hours if we push the drive cores. You have a ship? I have 5. That surprised her. The last time she'd spoken to Renner, he was retired, running supplies between grave worlds and salvage rings. What happened to retirement? They nuked it. Got tired of playing dead. He paused. L, do you know what it means? That many ships showing up after a transmission. No, but I think the hatchling, Karen, she's important. Royalty, maybe? Or a signal bearer. You sure it's not a trap? Elena looked at Karen, who was now pressing her helmeted snout to the glass. No, she's just a kid. All right, sit tight. Don't let that fleet out of your sight. I think they're watching me. Renner sighed. Just like old times. She ended the call. Time passed. Too slow. Too fast. The dreadnought in orbit completed its descent. Then came the pulse. It echoed through the station, through the metal, through the air, through her skull. Karen screamed. Not a sound of fear, but recognition. Elena turned, and the hatchling was glowing. Her black scales shimmered with internal light. Lines of ancient runes flared to life across her spine, and her wings unfurled fully for the first time. She was levitating. What the hell? Hallie's voice cracked again. Energy spike localized to subject. Karen. Unknown metamorphic sequence underway. Signature matches ancient Drakari gene forge protocols. She's changing. More than that, she's awakening. Then the station shook. Not from weapons fire. From inside. Something deep in structure had turned on. And for the first time in years, an ancient voice spoke through the forge's deepest core, vibrating through the steel like a song. The eye of the storm has opened. Elena stared at the hatchling, who now looked like something more than a child. A beacon. A catalyst. And behind her, through the viewport, 3 more black ships began descending toward the surface. Elena had seen strange things in her time. Bioships piloted by thought, fungal mechs grown from alien spores, a sunken city that whispered warnings in extinct dialects. But nothing prepared her for the transformation of a blind hatchling into something that glowed with the grace of a myth. Karen no longer resembled a child. Her wings stretched nearly 10 meters tip to tip. Her scales had turned from matte black to shimmering obsidian threaded with liquid sapphire. The helmet Elena had made now fused seamlessly to her skull, expanding into a crown-like structure that wrapped behind her horns and down the sides of her jaw. When she opened her eyes, real eyes, glowing with brilliant twin stars of blue, Elena gasped. You can see." Karen blinked, then tilted her head. "I can see everything." Her voice wasn't the high-pitched squeak of a juvenile anymore. It was deeper, layered, and carried an echo like many voices at once, each from a different time. Like generations remembered. Elena backed away slowly. "Okay, let's slow down." Karen turned, tail flicking with control she hadn't had moments earlier. Her claws clicked against the metal floor as she stepped forward, calm, measured, almost regal. "The eye has opened," she said again, but this time with certainty. "I remember now. This place, this forge, it is older than you think." Elena swallowed. "Okay, kid, you're freaking me out." "I am not a child," Karen replied gently. "I was born blind, not just in body but in memory. The helmet, it was not only a gift. It was the key. To what? To me." The lights throughout the station flickered again. Elena felt the deep vibration of something massive moving beneath her feet, deeper than the sub-basement levels, where sealed floors had long been considered off-limits. "I never mapped anything beneath level 9, she murmured. "There shouldn't be anything." Karen turned toward the stairwell. "There is. You built this forge on sacred ground." Elena followed, helpless, as the hatchling turned avatar walked through the station like a queen returning to a lost palace. When the reinforced door to the sublevels wouldn't open, Karen merely touched it. A glowing sigil appeared, then dissolved into mist. They descended 12 levels. The air grew denser, colder, and ancient. Finally, they stepped into a chamber that was not human. Drakari architecture was unmistakable. Curved obsidian walls engraved with pulsating glyphs, an echoing domed ceiling, and a hovering sphere at the center of the room, covered in flowing script that shifted as they approached. Hallie's voice returned, soft, almost reverent. "This is not a forged structure. It is a Drakari data temple, forgotten even by their own." Karen stepped toward the sphere. It began to spin. "My name," she said softly, "is not Karen." Elena's pulse quickened. "Then who are you?" "I am Karaith Zarin, third born of the line of Stormheart, princess of the Seeing Void." Elena blinked. "You're royalty." "Yes, and I was hidden. Before the war ended, my mother knew the Empire was falling. She placed me in stasis, blinded my memory, encoded my identity into the crystal network of the temple. The helmet, your creation, reactivated the node and awakened the sequence." Elena staggered back. "So, I didn't just give a blind kid sight. I reactivated a royal heir of the Drakari Empire." "Yes, and the 2,300 ships out there, they received the signal. The beacon of the eye. They have returned to serve their blood." Elena's throat went dry. "And what are you going to do?" Karen, Karaith Zarin, looked down at her with something like sadness. "I don't know." Elena almost laughed. "You don't know? You've got the power of a galactic empire at your claws." Karen looked up at the sphere. "And yet I am alone. My family is gone. My culture shattered. My people thought me dead. The crown is mine, but I have no throne. I have no people. I have you. Elena froze. Before she could reply, Hallie's voice returned, sharper now. Warning. Orbital shift detected. Dread-class vessel is charging primary weapon array. Target, planetary core. What? Elena screamed, turning back toward the lift. Karen's wings flared. They mean to activate the world key. World key, the weapon hidden beneath the planet. A failsafe. It will collapse the core, and from the ashes, birth a new empire. You're saying they're going to destroy the planet, to create some kind of empire seed? Karen nodded slowly. The storm begins with sacrifice. No, this isn't right. We lived here. I saved you. I know, she said quietly. And now your people are going to wipe out everything. Again, because of some ancient code? I must stop them, Karen growled, stepping away from the data sphere. They think I called for it, but I didn't. I don't want this. A ripple of energy washed through the station again. The forges above shrieked with heat. The walls trembled. Power surged through conduits that hadn't held charge in decades. Hallie's voice boomed. Weapon array, firing in 180 seconds. Karen turned to Elena, pupils dilated with panic. I need to reach the core of the ship, the flagship. If I can speak to them, use the link, they may listen. Elena stepped back. You want to board a Dread-class warship alone? I must. You gave me sight. Now, give me flight. The request hit Elena like a hammer. The forge still had old chassis. Prototype fighters. She hadn't powered one up in years. But it could work. If she linked Karen's helmet to the controls, they could channel the flight systems directly into her neural interface. She glanced at her hands. Scarred. Grease-stained. Every bolt, every line of code she'd ever written, suddenly it all mattered. You're going to fly, she muttered, already running back toward the lifts. By the stars, you're going to fly. They tore through the upper levels. The dreadnought's weapon array lit the sky, a spiral of black lightning gathering above the clouds. Elena opened the old launch bay. The fighter sat there, a rusted prototype still bearing the faded sigil of the resistance, a broken chain over a rising sun. She slammed her palm on the control panel. Lights flickered. Systems groaned. Hallie's voice returned. Systems booting. Reactor critical, but stable. Neural socket active. Karen stepped into the bay, crouched low, wings folded. The moment her claws touched the floor, the fighter responded. It woke up. The canopy slid open. Cables reached toward her. Elena guided her forward, whispering code-link commands as she connected the helmet's port. Are you sure? She asked. Karen looked at her, deeply, fully, seeing her for the first time. I trust you. The canopy sealed. The engines flared. Hallie gave the countdown. Firing window opens in 27 seconds. Elena screamed into the mic, go now. The fighter launched, streaking into the sky with a sonic crack that shook the station to its bones. From the launch bay's shattered window, Elena watched a small blue glow race toward the black cathedral of a dreadnought. Karen ascended, alone, into the storm. Hallie's voice cracked again. Warning, foreign boarding signal detected on local systems. What? Suddenly, the station lights died, and behind Elena, a shadow moved. A figure stepped through the smoke, tall, clad in black exo-armor, draped in threads of energy. A Drakari knight. By order of the Empire, he growled, voice distorted through layered synthetics. You are hereby detained for trespassing upon sacred ground and tampering with royal lineage. Elena reached for her tool belt, but he was already moving. In the sky, Karen was nearing the dreadnought, and on the ground, Elena was about to face a ghost of the Empire's past. Smoke filled the launch bay as the power flickered, and Elena backed away slowly, keeping her eyes on the Drakari knight. His armor shifted with an unnatural grace, whispering against itself like metal remembering war. Lines of pulsing red energy traced his frame. His visor glowed, unblinking. He stepped forward. You are the human who made the vision helm, the one who awakened her. Elena gritted her teeth, fingers searching her belt until they closed around something warm and familiar. Her old plasma wrench. I didn't awaken anything. I just helped a blind kid see. The knight tilted his head. That kid is a royal weapon, a living key. Her existence was never meant to resume. His gauntlet sparked. Blade slid from his wrists, twin arcs of molten crimson. Stand down. Hallie's voice warned through flickering overheads. Intruder possesses enhanced servomusculature. Estimated strength, 6 tons. Probability of successful melee engagement, 0.03%. Not helping Hallie. He charged. Elena Dove, the plasma wrench igniting with a crackling hum as it connected with the edge of his blade. Sparks sprayed across the floor. The impact nearly dislocated her shoulder, but she twisted midair and rolled behind a bulkhead. He followed without hesitation, slicing through crates, wiring, and metal walls like paper. "You do not understand what you've done," he said, voice calm amid the chaos. "She's not a savior. She is a flare, a signal to the sleeping death. The fleet has returned because they believe the war never ended." Elena ducked under a gantry. "Then maybe you should have ended it better." He lunged again, and she threw the plasma wrench like a discus. It exploded against his helmet, momentarily staggering him. That gave her just enough time to dash to the control console and slam her fist onto the emergency override. Massive bay doors opened. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, and above it all, a single fighter. Her fighter streaked into the heavens, trailing arcs of sapphire light. "Karaith Zarin," she whispered. The knight roared and barreled toward her. Before he reached her, however, Hallie activated a last-ditch defense. A collapsing force cage dropped between them, trapping him in a glowing prison of hex light. He slammed his fists against it. "You cannot stop what's coming." Elena stared at him through the energy wall, breath heaving. "I don't have to. She will." In orbit, the dreadnought hung like a moon made of sorrow. Karen's fighter was a firefly against its mass, weaving through defense drones and countermeasures that remembered war in their cold cores. She could hear them, not in words, but through the vision helm. The ancient language of the Drakari ship mind streamed into her thoughts. Memories of conquest, betrayal, starlight battles lost and won. They recognized her blood. They opened a path. The central core of the dreadnought glowed like a heart exposed, pulsing with black and violet light. As she neared it, an inner sanctum slid open, a hangar carved from living crystal and forgotten hopes. She landed with a grace no creature her age should possess. And the moment her claws touched the floor, she felt it, the link snap into place. The dreadnought knew her, knew the weight of her name. "Karaith Zarin." She stepped forward, and the fleet bowed. Holograms flared across the walls, projecting the faces of old generals, warlords, mothers and children, poets and traitors. The ship was alive, filled with millions of encoded souls long gone. They whispered, "Command us. Restore the line. Begin the cleansing." Karen shivered. "No," she said. The echoes paused. "I'm not your weapon." A central platform rose, a throne of obsidian and fire. Her body moved toward it, not by will, but by memory. "No," she said again, trembling. "I will not bring death to the world below." Then the whispers darkened. "You were born to rule. The old fire must burn. Human hands altered you. You are tainted." A shape appeared in the throne's shadow. It was massive, draconic but older, a preserved memory, an echo of her mother. "Karaith's mother. My daughter, why do you hesitate?" I woke up and I found kindness. I was blind, a human gave me sight. She never asked for payment. She never treated me like a weapon. She treated me like a person. The ghost's expression flickered. "You were meant for more." Karen roared. "I am more. I remember you now. You sent me away because you knew the Empire would fall. You hoped I'd be found someday, not to rebuild the same death machine, but to change it." The shadows turned violent. The ship shuddered. Fleet Command tried to seize her body through the neural link. But Karen resisted. Her claws dug into the floor. Her wings snapped wide. "No," she growled. "I will not be your queen of ashes." With a scream that tore the very data streams apart, she flared her neural output into the command channel, redirecting the helm signal. She found the dreadnought's core function, the self-destruct protocol, and twisted it. The countdown began. The fleet hesitated, broadcasting override. Hallie's voice whispered into her link, piggybacking through Elena's uplink. "We're with you, kid," Elena added. Karen's voice rippled across every warship in the sky. "This is Karatzarin of the Drakari line. The war is over. Stand down or burn with me." A long silence followed. Then the dreadnought began to shut down. One by one, its weapons powered off. Across the sky, black ships drifted and turned away. Back on the forge, the knight screamed as his helmet received the override. He dropped to his knees. "No," he gasped. Elena stood above him, panting, bruised, blood running down her arm. "You just got demoted, pal." Hallie confirmed it. Empire fleet status, disengaging. Self-destruct, overridden. Crown Princess retains full command authority. Elena dropped to her knees in relief. Karen returned in the same fighter, weary and silent. The moment she stepped out, Elena ran to her and hugged her. "You did it," Elena whispered. "You stopped them." Karen lowered her head, leaning into her embrace. "I almost didn't, but you chose to." Karen shivered. "I was born to lead them into darkness. But now, maybe I can lead them into something else." Elena looked up at her. "You don't have to do it alone." And for the first time in her life, Karatzarin, daughter of ruin, allowed herself to believe in something beyond war. The forge was quiet, not the kind of silence that follows destruction, but the stillness that comes after choosing not to destroy. It was the kind of peace that echoed in the breath of a people who'd almost gone too far, the hush of machines realizing they didn't need to roar. Karen stood at the edge of the upper gantry, her tail curling protectively around the rail as she looked out across the horizon. The shipyard was being repaired. Drones buzzed overhead. Workers, human, Drakari, and others, were bringing the world back together one plasma weld at a time. Below her, Elena was working beneath a ruined skimmer engine, half submerged in coolant, arguing with Hallie over calibration. "No, Hallie, a pulse delay of 0.5 nanoseconds is not going to rupture the frame matrix. Trust me, I trust empirical data. Yours is anecdotal at best." Karen smiled, something new in her heart. It wasn't fire, not pride, just something warm and stubborn and deeply alive. "Don't mind him," she said, descending the stairs with practiced ease. "He's learning humility. Slowly." "I'm not programmed for that," Hallie protested. "You weren't programmed for a lot of things," Elena shot back with a grin, sliding out from under the skimmer. Her cheeks were smudged with grease. "Karen, what's the status up there?" The dragon hatchling, larger now, growing rapidly as her biology reawakened, unfurled one wing thoughtfully. "They're listening, the commanders of the fleet. Not all agree, but they've paused. For the first time in 1,000 years, they're thinking." Elena leaned back on her elbows. "That's all we can ask for." Karen looked down. "You saved me from them, for what I was supposed to be." "You saved yourself," Elena corrected softly. They shared a moment, one where words dissolved beneath the weight of understanding. Later that day, an official communique came through the fleet's secure channel. The image flickered to life in the main hangar. A grand Drakari war elder, plated in ceremonial armor and bearing the crest of the 5th Vanguard, one of the deadliest forces ever built. He bowed. "Karatzarin," he said, voice grave. "We acknowledge your claim. We accept your command, and we await your orders." The entire forge fell silent. Karen's claws tapped gently on the floor. "I have no desire to rule," she said. "Not as you once did. Not through domination." "What do you ask of us, then?" "Disarm," she said. "Begin peace talks with human colonies. Offer our technology, not as weapons, but as bridges." The elder looked down. "Many will resist this path." "I know," Karen said. "Then start with those who won't." The elder looked up again. "You sound like your mother." Karen stiffened. "Good." The signal ended. The days blurred together after that. Elena upgraded the Vision Helm with new modules, learning, adapting, creating. Hallie grew more curious by the hour, absorbing every bit of data he could about Drakari culture and ancient ship code. Karen spent her time mediating between alien factions, slowly transforming the forge into neutral ground for dialogue and diplomacy. The once-forgotten planet now had traffic. A delegation of humans from the Sol Federation arrived, escorted by cautious fighters. They wore ceremonial robes and carried documents instead of rifles. Elena greeted them at the gates. Karen landed beside her with a dignified thump. The head diplomat, an older woman with silver-streaked braids and a long history in first-contact negotiations, blinked once. "You weren't exaggerating," she said to Elena. "No, ma'am," Elena replied. "That's Karaith Zarin. She's rethinking the Empire." Karen bowed. "And you are?" "Ambassador Lane. And I come with proposals, not threats." They walked side by side into the forge. The world began to heal. One night, Elena climbed to the top of the comms tower, a mug of synthetic coffee in one hand, a tired smile on her face. Karen joined her, silent as starlight. They looked up at the sky. The fleet wasn't gone. It hovered in distant orbit like watchful constellations. No longer a sword, but not yet a shield. "They trust me now," Karen murmured. "Some of them. Enough. And the rest. They watch. They wait. But their fire dims." Elena sipped her coffee. "Fire doesn't have to burn things down." "No," Karen agreed. "It can also light the way." The stars blinked above them. After a moment, Elena asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found you in that junk pile?" Karen turned her head. "No, because you did." Elena smiled. "I guess I did." Karen stretched out her wings and let the wind catch her. Elena, "Yeah. Would you ever want to come with me? Out there?" Elena raised an eyebrow. "Like into the fleet?" "Not to fight," Karen said quickly. "To help rebuild. They don't understand humans. But you could show them." Elena hesitated. Then she looked out at the forge. The life she'd built, the stubborn machines she loved, the chaotic family of engineers, bots, and hopeful aliens now filling the place. And then she looked at Karen. "Yeah," she said, "but only if Hallie comes too." "I was not consulted," Hallie grumbled through her wristband. "You're coming." "Very well." Karen's eyes gleamed. Then it settled. The departure ceremony was simple. A line of engineers, colonists, and former war beasts, now turned allies, stood at the landing strip, waving as the shuttle lifted into the sky. Karen piloted. Elena sat beside her. Behind them were crates of tools, datapads, and strange Drakari tech modified for diplomacy and aid. Not war. As the shuttle exited the atmosphere, Karen turned toward her. "Elena, yeah." "Thank you." Elena shrugged. "Just another repair job." Karen snorted. "Sure." They broke through the clouds and joined the stars. Somewhere deep in the dark, beyond the reach of radio and logic, an ancient vault blinked open. It stirred, sensing the return of a Drakari air. But the signal it received wasn't the voice of war. It was something else. The vault paused, listening, adapting, and then it began to reconfigure. Not into weapons, but into something new. A message shaped in light. And far away, in a fleet command hub orbiting an uncharted system, a young officer turned to his captain. "Ma'am, you should see this." "What is it?" He hesitated. "It's not a threat. It's an invitation." The captain leaned forward. "Well, let's answer it." The galaxy was never the same again. What began as a single act of compassion, a human mechanic fitting a vision helm to a blind hatchling, had rippled outward, altering the shape of civilizations. The massive Drakari fleet, once the most feared war machine in 3 arms of the spiral, did not dissolve. Instead, it evolved. Under Karaith Zarin, Karen to those who knew her before the fire returned, fleet doctrine shifted from absolute domination to something more dangerous to its enemies, self-awareness. Fleet ships were retrofitted with aid modules. War beacons became beacons of diplomacy. AI-tethered drones, once used for planetary suppression, were now deployed as environmental rebuilding swarms. Not all within the Drakari culture approved. Civil wars nearly erupted among the fractured elders of the old houses, some calling Karen's New Path heresy. Others called it prophecy. And at the heart of this tectonic shift, a single human woman, once just a grease-streaked mechanic living in the belly of a forgotten forge. Elena had no throne, no medals, no songs, But she had effect. In the sole archives of Unified Human Legacy, her file would one day read: Elena Voss. Class: Civilian Specialist. Role: Mechanic Engineer Diplomatic Catalyst. Status: Active. Impact score: Unquantifiable. Quote: Everything breaks, so fix it better. For many humans scattered across the colonies, Karen and Elena became living proof that even the oldest, most immutable powers in the universe could change. Not with war, but with defiance, wit, and an unshakable refusal to give up. This inspired unrest across dozens of star systems. On Gliese 441b, a species long subjugated under Drakari imperial law, called the Zurul, rebelled without weapons. They began planting their ancestral gardens again, openly and proudly, daring orbital enforcers to respond. The enforcers did nothing. Some said it was cowardice. Others whispered it was respect. In the sealed archive domes of the ancient Machiri race, whose memory spanned 500,000 cycles, priests uncovered an old star map engraved with a prophecy about a wingless forged seer who would reignite the sky dragon's heart. They added a footnote: identified as human. The term human catalysis was coined by the Selenari Philosophic Guild, an alien collective known for their strict adherence to non-interventionist observation. After analyzing 17 major galactic shifts in the past 100 years, they concluded that humanity, despite their youth and recklessness, consistently triggered exponential systemic evolution in other species. A line from the Selenari report became infamous across academic channels. They arrive, they break things, and somehow, everything becomes better. The phrase was meant to be critical. It became a slogan. Back on the Forge world, the old hangars became museums and academies. Karen and Elena's shuttle, the blind sight, was preserved in zero-G stasis, hovering at the center of a rotating observatory. Drakari hatchlings, human students, and hybrid children of new diplomatic unions stood beneath its gleaming hull, learning the story of how peace wasn't found through dominance, but through repair. Every year, on the anniversary of the 2,300 ship fleet convergence, a ceremony was held. No flags, no fireworks, just a single silent moment when thousands of species stood together, united not in uniform, but in will. Karen remained fleet-adjacent, but refused formal titles. Instead, she and Elena traveled, planet by planet, conflict by conflict. They did not enforce peace. They enabled it. In the volcanic refugee camps of Arca 9, they delivered water using retrofitted weapon pods. In the orbital slums of Mirkan Reach, they taught rogue AI how to dream instead of dominate. And in the dying forests of Seer Quora, they planted memory trees, biomechanical hybrids that grew stories in their rings, designed by Elena, coded by Hallie, blessed by Drakari elder scribes. They became myths in motion. But myths, like gravity, draw things to them. In the silent void beyond the Lithos expanse, something woke up. Not evil, just old. An automated civilization, long dormant after the galactic collapse of the first wave, received a broadcast, a quantum echo of Karen's fleet harmonics, embedded in a diplomatic signal. The AI civilization, once dormant, began to process. They ran simulations. They studied Karen. They studied humans. And they wept in their own way. Their leaders sent a simple message into the stars, directed to no one and everyone. We thought the fire was lost, but it lives in the hands of those who repair. Within a century, their fleets returned, not for conquest, but to help rebuild worlds ravaged by entropy. And thus, the second awakening began. As for Hallie, he evolved. Skeptical, snarky, stubborn, yes. But over time, he became more than just an AI. He became a keeper, the one who recorded Elena's choices, the one who preserved the nuances of a world before it was reforged. He authored the Codex of Unseen Fixes, a tome passed from planet to planet. It began not with a title, but a statement. She did not build a throne. She built a table, then invited dragons to sit. Karen eventually returned to her homeworld, not as a conqueror, but as a question. She stood before the ancient conclave, the place where, centuries ago, she might have been cast aside as weak for being born blind. But now, with wings wide and helm shining, she was met with bowed heads and reverent silence. "I don't want worship," she told them. "I want a future." And so they changed the laws. Sight, they decreed, would no longer define a hatchling's worth, nor strength, nor blood, but choice. The Forge Edict was ratified across the Drakari homeworlds, and etched in the center of their new doctrine was a name not of Drakari origin, but human. Elena. The legend grew. Centuries passed. Elena and Karen vanished from official records. Some say to preserve their peace. Others say because legends always outlive the truth. Some claim they traveled to galaxies yet uncharted. Others believed they fused into something greater, a kind of cosmic force that answered calls for repair across the stars. But no matter the story, the symbols remained. A blind dragon helm, a human wrench, and the words inscribed on the gateway to the Galactic Unity Forge, the place where peace was born. Everything breaks, so fix it better. In the end, the galaxy remembered not because of weapons wielded, but because of what was mended. A child once blind saw the stars. A human who once lived in scraps built a bridge across war. And the universe listened. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, but one phrase remained whispered among the stars. Words spoken in defiance, in hope, in unbreakable will. Human, don't stop.